I don't know if it's just me, but it feels like the last several weeks have been a little bit crummy. And by a little bit, I mean a lot. And so in the context of a pandemic that's just dragging on and on and on, in the context of rioting and looting and taxi violence and taxi strikes and radical unemployment and small businesses closing down and a shrinking economy and massive financial pressure, and in the context of lockdown restrictions, which are still so inhibitive, and social isolation, in the context of a third wave, which we just don't seem to be getting to the end of, one might say the last couple of weeks have been a little bit crummy. And that's just coming and looking at general things that we all face, not least of all what you're facing personally. And so I don't know about you, but for me, last week we celebrated as our kids went back to a normal school day where they were all at school at the same time, not portioned out through the course of the day. And by Wednesday, Kaz was saying, she feels for the first time in a year and a half that she's on top of her work. And by Friday, we were told that it had to go back to the platooning system, and they'd initiated it too early. And so I asked one of the parents, one of the dads that I'm friends with, just how he felt about it. And I had to laugh as he said his wife is in a state of mourning, sackcloth and ashes and weeping, and for him working from home, it's a thought too terrible to bear. And so I laughed at his drama, but I related to where he found himself at. And that's just the schooling, let alone the heaviness of seeing many people sick over this time, and many of them seriously sick, being admitted to hospital, and more than I've ever known before, passing away. And so it's been tragic and brutal and heart sore. The last couple of weeks have been really crummy. And so it feels like as soon as we try and find any kind of forward momentum or plan or do something, it's like a house of cards that you build up. At the slightest little nudge, it all comes falling down. And it's incredibly hard to move forward or to plan or to find any kind of momentum. And it feels like this season is a season that is a recipe for mega frustration. And so if you find yourself in that position, I want to come and say, number one, you're not alone. For a start, I'm there with you and many others, but more than that, God is with us. Secondly, you need to come and you need to let go of the things that you don't have control of. You don't have control over life and death. You don't have control over the virus. You don't have control over the economy or the departments of education. You need to just let it go. Let it go. And with the hand that you're letting that stuff go, you need to come and grab hold of the stuff, number three, that you do have control over. And so you have control over your time with God, your relationship with God. You have control over sitting at a table and having a meal with your family. You have control over who you socialize with, what you read online. You have control over connecting into community, whether it's with a life group or a fellowship group. These are all things you have control over, and they can be anchor points in this season that can help you. And lastly, fourthly, come and fill your tank. Fill your tank with that which brings life, that brings an ease, a sense of peace. And it could be going out in nature, it could be exercising, it could be hanging out with people that bring joy to your life. But most of all, it's hanging out with God and allowing His joy to be your joy, His perspective, your perspective, His wisdom, your wisdom, His discernment, your discernment, and His direction, your direction. And so I hope that encourages you. God bless you all. I'm cheering you all on.